Hey, what's up everybody? This is Oceanberg501 and today I want to go over a build for what I think is one of the strongest weapons currently in Escape From Tarkov, and that, as you can see, is the MP7. And there's actually a couple different reasons why this weapon is so strong and why a lot of people have actually been using it. First off, with the recoil changes, this thing's just a laser beam now. It was actually a bit wild to use before all of these recoil changes, but it's back to being a laser beam like it was a few years ago, so it feels like an actual SMG. But then on top of that, with all of the changes to high tier ammos, making most of them only obtainable through crafting or through being found in raid, the ammo availability for the MP7 is actually really good. You can get subsonic and FMJ, I think both from rank 3 traders, and you can buy quite a lot of that ammo. I think it's 300 for FMJ and 400 for subsonic. Both of those ammos are actually really good. Subsonic not being as strong in armor pen, but having reduced recoil, and then FMJ being a bit better against higher tier armors, but both of them still being very viable right now. You're able to buy a lot of them. Those ammos aren't really expensive, and when being compared to most other calibers, you just can't get rounds as good from traders anymore. And another really nice thing about the MP7 is you don't have to do much to it, and they're not super expensive on the flea market either. So they're going to be decently cheap to build this weapon. So first off, for the sight, I would recommend probably just using any of the hollow sights or red dot sights you like using. Using a longer range sight or scope like a Razor or a Valday or something like that probably isn't going to be very good because this weapon has a pretty low muzzle velocity. It's an SMG, it should be used at close or medium ranges. Then you want the Magpul M-Bus Gen 2 front and rear sights, either black or tan, doesn't matter, whichever one you can get cheaper, and these both give +1 ergo. Then we're going to be putting a silencer on it, which this is one of the spots where this weapon can be really expensive if you don't have the vendor, because I think these are 56k at mechanic 3 or 4, but these things last I checked were like 100k on the flea market, and they do end up selling out for mechanic most of the time, but you can buy 6. So if you can buy these from the trader, I'd recommend going and buying 6 at once, just so you have a stockpile of them, so you don't have to worry about sniping them when the vendor is resetting when you want to run MP7s. Now, if you can't get the silencers from the trader, you might not want to buy them from the flea market if they're still super high priced whenever you're watching this video. You can still use this weapon unsilenced, it's just not going to be as good, obviously. Then put any tactical device you like using on this. It already has the rails, and I like using the Bald R Pro, but any tactical device you want to use, you can just put right on here. You don't even need to buy the rails. Then for the grip, I'm using an RK2, which is a pretty expensive grip if you can't buy it from the trader, and this is the lowest recoil grip in the game, which is why I like it. Now, this reduces the ergo by quite a lot, and in the full build with the magazine of this weapon, our build has 34 ergo, but I've went and tested this between using the RK2 or using the SE5 or using the RK1. Those are the 3 grips I'd recommend generally. The SE5 is going to have the best ergo, and the RK1 is going to be the middle ground between the RK2 and the SE. But when testing all these different grips, I liked how the weapon felt with the RK2 much more and having that lower recoil. But if you're someone that likes a lot more ergo, you can change up the grip. And if you want to have a much cheaper build, you can pretty much use anything. You could use these RVG grips. And as you can see, it's going to give a lot more ergo than an RK2. And it's just going to have +1 increase to vertical recoil and +4 to horizontal. So it's not going to be a massive difference if you get much cheaper grips. Then finally, we have the mags. Now this is another spot to where if you don't have the correct traders, the weapon may not be worth using, because you need a rank 4 mechanic to get the 40 round mags for this. They're like 80 or 90k if you can't get them from the trader. Those aren't really worth using without being from the trader. And you need a rank 3 gunsmith to get the 30 rounders, which I think are around 30k on the flea market. So those could still be usable if you don't have the trader, but I would probably recommend getting mechanic rank 3 so you can at least get the 30 rounders before you start using a lot of MP7s. And that's the entirety of this build. This weapon is just a laser beam with really good ammo that is very easily obtainable in high amounts. Pretty much the only downsides with this weapon is you're going to need higher rank traders to get the silencer and the magazines, and you're going to have to make sure you're not playing at super long ranges with this because it has a really low muzzle velocity. But besides that, it's a laser beam. You can get really good ammo that shreds pretty much any armor anybody's using right now. You can get it in large amounts, and the weapon's just super fun to use because the weapon being a laser beam is actually pretty crazy when you consider this has 950 RPM. A lot of the other weapons or laser beams right now, like an AK-101, is 650 RPM. So this thing is still crazy high fire rate while still having very low recoil. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more EFT or other FPS videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this MP7 build, and thanks for watching.
Вон он, вон он! Лиза, козёл! Куда он делся? Хуйло! Вот хуйло! Конец тебе! Засранец вонючий, мать твою, а! Ну иди сюда, попробуй меня трахнуть! Я тебя сам трахну, ублюдок! Быстро! Вон он, блядь, его! Вот ты тут! Ты куда пошел? Да.
Не, я с пацанами за такое не тер.
Пацаны, окружаем его! Ты чё там, бля, вопишь, упырь? Вот он! Давай, мальчик! Гений, да! Давай, мальчик! Вон он, вон!